Hey guys, so today we're going to be rebuilding an older Kohler toilet. I don't know the model number of it. This toilet was here when I bought this house about 10 years ago. And yeah, it's the only toilet I didn't replace because it was in pretty good shape. However, it's probably from the early 2000s if I had to guess, and it's starting to show its age. And what do I mean by that? So the toilet's starting to run once in a while. That usually means the flapper is starting to leak, and it is. You know, you can run your finger along the bottom of it, you start to feel a kind of a groove in it, which I do feel here. It's also very discolored, and I figured, you know what, this toilet's probably close to 20 years old. Might as well just kind of refurbish the whole top end, so that's what we're going to be doing today. So what to do that on a Kohler toilet? You got to order the parts, obviously, and they are very kind. And on the bottom of the tank, they put all the part numbers, the service part numbers that you need to service this model. As long as the lid goes with the tank, then you should be fine. So this one, we're putting in a new fill valve right here, which looks strikingly like a traditional fluid master, which is what's in there right now. Back here, that's the fill valve. And then we're also going to be putting a flush valve kit in there, which also includes the tank to bowl seal, which traditionally goes bad on Kohlers, flapper, and the whole thing. So rather than just replace the flapper, I decided just to go ahead and we'll refurbish the whole thing. So the part number on this one is GP11389330. This is an updated part number. I think there is a different part number if your stem or your fill valve is black. This is the one here is gray, so this is the part number for the gray one. And the flush valve is 85406. So your part numbers might vary, so make sure you look at the underside of the lid like I did, and you might see that some of the parts have been updated or superseded. That's fine, just order those. So the first step here is to shut off the water to the toilet, and hopefully your shut-off valve works. If it doesn't, then you might want to start with that project. That'll be maybe covered on another Joe's Garage video. I know a couple of neighbors that have some bad shut-off valves. So this one is a quarter turn ball valve, so I'm pretty confident it's going to work okay. It's really tight back here. That's what she said. So now we got to flush the toilet, drain the water out of the tank. This is my daughter's toilet, so you'll notice I didn't lift the lid because I don't want to know what was in there. Hopefully nothing now. Okay, so now let's see. Let's start disassembling the tank. Now on Kohlers, like I said before, they have this weird like tank to bowl seal here. And traditionally you get water leaks around these bolt holes, and it's just, the bolts will corrode, and these are starting to, so I think it's probably time to do this job. Again, I could have just replaced the flapper, but I'm in here, I'm working. I know that Kohlers usually have a problem with that seal anyway, so I figured, you know what, let's just go and replace the whole shooting match and renew the whole thing. So let's see, to proceed, let me just remember what we need. I know we need a flathead screwdriver. Let's feel under here. What do we feel? There is a nut there. Looks like feels like maybe a 7/16. So let me get some tools. Oh wow, look at this one. He just decided the shower would be a wonderful place to lay down. Labs are such goofballs. You're so weird. You're a good boy, though. I was thinking, you know what, before I go and grab tools, let's see if Kohler included any tools. Sometimes tools are included, so they're the new bolts. Worst case, we could take the new bolts and use that as a sizing guideline for the old bolts. Or maybe they actually print the tools that you need. That would be fantastic. Let's see, instructions. Where's the garbage can? That's usually where they go, right? Yeah, not much here. 12 different languages. Yeah, instructions are pretty much useless. All right, I'm gonna take these and go grab some tools. I'll let you guys know what I need. I was wrong, they're 1/2-inch nuts. It looks like Kohler changed the design of them too. I'll show you once I get the tank off. Let's move all this stuff on the ground. So we're probably gonna end up putting the tank here temporarily, or at least dumping the water out. So you're gonna need a 1/2-inch socket and a ratchet and a flat blade screwdriver. So one by one, there's 3 in here. I'm going to use the flathead screwdriver to hold the head on the screw, so like that. And on the back of the underside of the tank, I'm going to be using the ratchet to loosen the nut. And you see that the seal just disintegrated. Look at something just touching it; it's coming apart. You guys see that? Sorry about the shadows. It's a tight corner here. But yeah, that's what happens with these, and then they leak water. But it does look like the new design is different, so it should be interesting to see how that plays out. Alright, here we go. Don't put the ratchet in the water. So let's get this in here. Got that one. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Looks like that one was already loosey. That's a good sign, right? Now you might want to have a towel standing by, because once you pull these holes out, in fact, let me get a towel and sop up that water, because I don't want that going everywhere. Make a mess. So one good thing about working in a kid's bathroom, right? There's no shortage of laundry on the floor or used towels that grown-ups are expected to deal with. Gotta love kids, right? Just soaking up this water so it doesn't make a mess. It's just water, I know, but why not minimize the mess if we have the power to do it, right? Okay, water's gone. Let's see if any of these other ones are tight. That one appears to be. Take our ratchet with our 1/2-inch socket and just crack it loose. They don't need to be tight because you don't want to crack any of the porcelain. Let's do the one on this side. That one also is not that tight. Cool. Alright. Probably didn't even need the ratchet. So all this hardware gets discarded. I'm just unscrewing the nuts from under the tank. You also need to unscrew the hose that comes out of the shutoff valve and goes into the fill valve. Okay, so here's 2 out of the 3. Now, if you are working in a kid's bathroom and your kids happen to be boys, it's a great opportunity to clean in there. I'll let you guys do the math. All right, let's unhook our hose. And oh, that's super loose. Wow, amazing this thing wasn't leaking. Everything's all rock solid and hard. That's what she said. If your hose that goes to the toilet is 1,000 years old, like this one is, probably a good time to replace that as well. I'm just thinking of that now, so I don't have a replacement on hand. But easy to replace later. No big deal. So now, tank should simply lift off the bowl. Like so. Make sure you make as much of a mess as possible, because that's really important. Get that last bit of remaining water. Gonna suck it up with the towel. I'll just pour it into the towel. That's probably easier, right? There we go. Wonderful. Brought the tank into the garage, cleaned it up outside a little bit first, and just thought it'd be easier to give you guys a better view of what's going on in here rather than outside. So again, got the tank rinsed out. We're gonna pull this old seal off, hopefully. Might have to take a mallet or just give those bolts a little tap. Just to loosen them up a little bit. And sometimes they don't like coming out. And by sometimes I mean always. Well, we'll take the fill out first. That's easy. So this just simply unscrews, old fill valve comes out. And you don't have to replace this whole valve. You can just replace pieces of it. They actually make a kit where you can just replace the guts up here. I'll show you that in a little bit. I don't have the kit, but I'll show you what's entailed in doing that. Maybe we can unscrew them. Will that work? Oh, got some water on me. Lovely. At least it's clean water. So I'm just going to take my screwdriver and see if I can unscrew them from this rubber seal, because it's in there good. That doesn't seem to be helping too much. I know you guys are plumbers and you have a trick for this, let me know. All ears. Always like to learn something new. But I feel like those have to come out. Probably going to regret this. It's loose now. Yeah, I think that's what we have to do. Don't hit the tank. As I've almost done about 4 times. There we go. Okay, so these two seem to be cooperating. The third one, obviously not. Should be able to yank these out now. One. You just see how nasty they get in time. Hopefully you can see that. These actually aren't all that bad. I've seen some that are much worse where there's barely a head left on the screw. So this is the old design. This is what the new design looks like. There's not even any metal in the tank. So it's a whole molded plastic part. Who knows how long that'll hold up for? Time will tell. There we go. Now it's coming off. Now it's cooperating. There we go. So all 3 are out. You gotta pop this seal off. Like that. Yeah. You can see it's just disintegrating. See? Disintegrating in my hands. So you can see this is all torn up here. That's just what happens over time. It's just how things go. Clean my hands off. Now we need to take this big nut off under here. I'm just going to use a big pair of channel locks and turn counterclockwise like that. There we go. Spin the whole thing off together, if you choose. Still making a mess, jeez. Coming apart. All right, so now your tank should be pretty empty shortly. Let me stop the camera, clean my hands up again, and we'll spin it around and look inside. Now, that's kind of what you'll see at this point. So the last part is to disconnect this chain from the handle. And now this whole assembly should just come right out. Like so. And apparently going to leave pieces left over. I wonder what that's to. Great. Probably a cracked seal somewhere. But again, that's why we're doing this, right? We're doing this because this thing hasn't been touched in years. And we just don't want to have to worry about breaking parts, so we're just going to replace all the parts. They're really not that expensive either. I mean, I paid maybe $40 for the fill valve, and probably, no, I think it was even less than that. I think I paid maybe $35 for the fill valve and the flush valve. So, pretty economical. I mean, a new Kohler toilet's far more expensive than that. All right, so we got our old parts on the right over here. Once again, we got our fill valve and our flush valve. We have our old tank, oh boy, tank to bowl seal. I just got seal goo on my hammer. And we got our new parts on the left. So we got our new flush valve here. Oh, they changed the color, how nice. We got a new seal. What's this for? Oh, maybe it probably goes under this nut. Why they didn't just leave it there? Who knows? And we got our new fill valve, sorry, and our new seal. All right, let me clean this up once more and we'll put her back together. Our bowl is nice and clean, empty. So now let's start putting stuff back together. So I'm going to take this nut off. And we're going to slide our flush valve into place like so. I'm going to take nut, then washer, then new seal like that. So nut, washer, new seal. And I'm gonna, from the bottom, just start to thread it on. In fact, let's spin it around, that's gonna be easier. Why make our lives more difficult, right? Let's get these bad boys in there first. Like so. You'll have to hold it on the inside, obviously. Just spin that on. I'm not going to tighten it just yet because I want to get the orientation right relative to the fill valve. So it's just kind of in there loosely. Now let's take our new fill valve right here. And, oh, this comes with some extra parts. Maybe I should look at the guidance or the instructions instead of throwing them away, right? Jeez, so many things to read here. Oh, 25 different languages, that's why. Flow restrictor, remove, replace. As usual, the instructions are useless. Let's slide our fill valve in there. Doesn't look like there's a washer on the bottom. That's kind of what I was looking in the instructions for. I'm just going to thread that nut on the bottom while I hold this. Actually, let's spin you around like we did last time. So about like so. Now, you can replace the fill valve. That's all that's wrong with your toilet. You can replace that without removing the tank. So I would encourage you to do so if that's all you got going on. So now as far as orientation, you'll notice that I've got these sort of angled towards one another like that because this tube needs to come out here and go in there. Maybe we can angle this a little bit more. Maybe more like that. Yeah, probably about like that. That's pretty good. And this tube's gonna come out of here and then hang in there. And they give you all the parts to do that. Flow restrictors. Sounds kind of silly to me, but whatever. All right, so let's get that nut tightened on the bottom. I'm not gonna crank down on it, but I just want to make sure it's snug. Then we'll reinstall the bowl and finish the rebuild process. So I'm just going to hold this in place and snug this down with my fingers. That's pretty tight. And then we got to get our bolts in here. Let me size this bolt for a socket, because again, this is no longer a flathead screwdriver. I stand corrected. If you look carefully, there's only flats on two sides, so this looks like it's designed for an adjustable wrench, so that's what we'll use. If you are determined to use a socket, though, I found that a 23mm seems to fit pretty well. Before we go and put this thing back together, I promised you I would show you how this thing works and how you can service this. So if your toilet is just running, it'll maybe it just runs continuously and overflows into the tank. Problem's normally up here, and you can rebuild this. I think you can get a rebuild kit for this thing for about $4 or $5. You can replace the whole thing for about 10, but if you don't want to go through the hassle of removing it, you can just rebuild the top end. And quite often you don't need to even rebuild the top end. Sometimes there's just debris caught in here that's preventing it from sealing properly. So to take this apart, simply push down and rotate. The cap will come off like so. And inside you'll see this little seal here, or diaphragm rather. And quite often this is where the problem is. So you'll see there's some gunk built up in there. So you can get a new one of these or just clean it out as I did. Again, not expensive, about $4. And what I like to do when I'm putting things back together is I'll turn the water, I'll take this cap off like this, and I'll put my hand over the top and I'll turn on the shutoff valve briefly just to flush any debris out of here and out of the lines. So that prevents any problems from occurring. This way there's no dirt in the lines. Like if you have any if you have plumbing work done in the house, or maybe at the shutoff valve at the street or whatever, anytime dirt can enter the lines, dirt will inevitably find its way up here and prevent this thing from working properly. So that's how you can take this thing apart real quick and just service it without making a whole big project out of this as I did. Now, looking at the flapper valve, you'll see there's a bit of a groove around here. It might be hard to see on the camera, but it's pitted, and I could run my finger over this and catch the edge. So this thing has seen better days, and that's why we're doing this job. Well, not just because of that, but the general age of everything and the fact that it probably has never been serviced in almost 20 years. All right, let me junk these parts. These go in the you-know-what bucket. And we'll get this thing installed now. Okay, we're back in the bathroom. So let's take our remaining 2 bolts and shove them through that seal. Of course, there's about 1,000 things in the way. It's going to be fun to tighten these with a crescent wrench. Maybe I should have grabbed that 23mm socket. There's one. Last one in the back. Right there. Okay. Now we have to put the tank on the bowl. Gravity does most of the work. You just got to make sure all those bolts go in where they're supposed to go. Got 1, 2, 3. Okay, so they're all in. Now is a good time to make sure that your tank is not crooked. And we're going to install washer the nut on all 3 bolts. And we're just going to slowly tighten them. Our objective is not to crack the bowl or the tank. So this is not one of those cases where you tighten until you hear a crack and then back off a quarter turn. That's not going to help you here. Man, this is going to be tough. I might have to take some of this, might have to take this handle out. I'm just threading that on there best I can by hand. 1. 2. Put that one in the back. It was interesting when they plumbed this house. I don't know if you can tell, but there's probably a good 5-6 inches of space between the back of the tank and the wall. So I don't know if this plumber was on something or just didn't care or wasn't paying attention or mismeasured, but these toilets are normally supposed to be pretty close to the wall. Maybe an inch of clearance or so. This 12-inch rough-in toilet's more like a, I don't know, like a 16-inch rough-in. But whatever, not the end of the world. All right, so we're gonna lightly or slowly tighten down on these the nuts from the bottom of the tank. Hopefully the screws don't spin. If they do, I got my wrench here. And then we're just gonna test it for a watertight seal after we hook the hose back up. You don't want to tighten one down and then move on to the next. You want to tighten each one slowly. So I'm just gonna go around the perimeter of the tank, just snugging them down slowly, you know, a couple turns a piece. That's another way to crack the tank. Hang on a second, is this one all the way? Yeah, it looks okay. Maybe. You know what, let me take another look at that one. Doesn't look like there's any rubber in the tank. There's supposed to be some that squeezes out. No, it was okay. Alright, let's just tighten these down again and we'll be done. Well, we'll be done with this part. Got all the bolts tightened down to where I think they should be. We'll test them for leaks. So the bolt heads are just about touching the bottom of the tank. I think they actually might be. I'd rather have them too loose than too tight. Alright, let's hook up our water hose and we'll do a little bit of a leak check. So we're going to hook the water hose back up to the fill valve, the new fill valve. Turn the water on and we'll hope for the best. Come on. It's righty tighty, lefty loosey, right? I think so. Sometimes the easiest part of a job is the most difficult. There it goes. Okay, I'm going to follow my own advice and pop the cap off here. I'm going to turn the water on. Let's see, can you guys see this? Maybe. So I pop the cap of the fill valve off. I'm going to keep my hand here loosely, just blip the water, let any contaminants run out, and then shut it back off. And we'll put this back on. Just like that. Super easy. All right, let's give her some water and see what happens. Check for leaks. I didn't hook up that hose yet. That's why you see that spraying out the side. We'll do that in a little bit. When you do your leak check, make sure your hands are dry. Make sure the bowl is dry. Tank is about half full. Don't see any water leaks yet. The way I'm checking is I'm just looking right where the bowl meets the tank down here. I'm also putting my fingers at all three bolt holes to make sure everything's dry, and everything is dry. So assuming this goes well, next thing we gotta do is put that hose on, aim down into that pipe. This is what fills the tank. We may have to install some kind of flow restrictor according to the instructions, we'll see. Not convinced of that yet. And we also got to hook up the chain to the handle here. And then I think the job will be done. Obviously, you might want to be around the first time you're filling it to make sure the water actually shuts off. It should be shutting off any second. Just like that. So again, looking for leaks around the bolt holes. Feel nothing. Now I'm going to pull the chain, open the flapper, and that's when you would see water between the tank and the bowl, because that's when water's flowing down that way. So let's give her a test. I see nothing. And we'll do another check around the tank, front and back. Make sure your hand's dry, remember that. Nothing, bone dry. All right, let's finish the install. One thing I should have pointed out is if you don't buy the OEM Kohler parts, or the OEM Kohler kit, you may have to adjust the length of this. Those things just thread and unthread to change the length, but this is about the same as the old one, but I forgot to mention that. Now in the instructions they said to match the flow restrictor with the old one. The old one doesn't have one, so I'm not going to put one in here. We'll see if that's a mistake or not. I'm going to put this tube on that nipple where I took this blue flow restrictor off. I'm going to cut this tube to length and we're going to stick it down this vertical tube here. I'll cut it to about there. You can always cut it shorter, you can't cut it longer. Remember that. And this needs to go in like that. Goes on about like that. Let's give that a shot. Full blast. It is pretty quiet, I'll give them that. It is nearly silent, especially with the top on it be silent. While that's filling, let's cut our chain to length. So we want to make sure that when you fully depress that, it yanks up on the flapper all the way. Come on, fill up. Any day now. And look at that, it already came pre-adjusted for the right water line. Amazing. If you need to adjust that though, you can just adjust it here, just adjust the float height. Alright, so let's yank up on this. So we want to cut a good amount off, so we'll cut it to about here. Let's see how that goes. This just pops off here. I just cut it with a pair of side cutters. Come on. There we go. Get rid of that excess chain. Let's see how that goes. Nope, need to cut off more. Doesn't even do anything. I'm always so hesitant to cut off too little, or too much rather. Paranoid. Cut off by another inch. I think I've said that expression, they don't make a chain stretcher, a board stretcher, or whatever stretcher so many times, I've become paranoid about cutting something too short. But, what's that old saying? Measure twice, cut once? Let's try this. That's too long still. Probably because I'm not factoring for the length of this loop that goes over the arm. So we'll cut it a bit shorter. Hopefully for the last time. That's good. I like that. All right, let's let it fill up again. We'll do another test flush. Sorry guys, I realize you probably can't see very much, but tight corners here. Not much room on either side. Okay, it's been about 10 or 15 minutes. I let it sit with water in there just to make sure everything was cool. Let's do our first test flush. I think that worked pretty well. Cool. All right, guys, I think this job is done. If you like this video, if you found this helpful rebuilding your own Kohler toilet, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and stay safe, everybody. Always enjoy working with you.